Hello, my name is Kishore Mahbubani. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this 4-week course on US-China relations, past, present, and future. There is now absolutely no doubt that a major geopolitical contest has broken out between the US and China. As an aside, please let me mention that I'm using the terms US and America interchangeably. Hence, sometimes I'll call it the US-China contest, at other times the Sino-American contest. This course has a clear goal to deliver a deep understanding of the historical roots, the structural forces, the major misunderstandings, and possible alternative policies that could drive the US-China relationship. In short, we'll be undertaking a major learning journey together. When we undertake any journey, we should prepare ourselves. First, we should have a map. In this video, I'll try to explain what ground we'll be covering in each week of this course. Second, as in any journey, we should prepare ourselves for surprises. Certainly, for those of you who have been following US-China developments through the lenses of the globally dominant Western, especially Anglo-Saxon media, you'll be surprised to hear some of the comments and assessments made in this course. Why do I say this? The Western media often conveys a simple black and white view of the US-China relationship. In addition, it often suggests that the US view is right and the Chinese view is wrong. As a student of geopolitics for over 50 years now, I can confidently assert that there has been no geopolitical contest where one side is right and the other side is wrong. Often, both sides have their legitimate interests and points of view. A good scholar of the US-China relationship should therefore point out that there are at least two narratives of the US-China relationship: an American narrative and a Chinese narrative. All great strategic thinkers have emphasized that a good strategist must understand both points of view. Indeed, as the legendary Chinese strategist Sun Tzu said, "Know thyself, know thy enemy, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories." To explain how these two narratives have emerged, the first week of this course explains how Chinese and American perspectives are influenced by their own historical experiences. When the Chinese century of humiliation from roughly 1840 to 1949 met the American century of triumph from roughly 1890 to 1990, these different historical experiences provided ripe materials for misunderstanding. So if one doesn't know that the Opium War led to the ceding of Hong Kong to Britain, and that the Chinese defeat in the 1895 Sino-Japanese War led to the ceding of Taiwan to Japan, one would not understand why these are highly sensitive issues for Chinese leaders. Henry Kissinger underscored the importance of history when he wrote in November 2020, quote, "One of the basic historic issues is that Americans feel that foreign policy is a largely pragmatic issue. Chinese feel that foreign policy is primarily as a view of historical evolution. The history of China is different from the history of America, and Americans have had a history of relatively uninterrupted success. The Chinese have had a very long history of repeated crisis. America has had the good fortune of being free of immediate dangers. Chinese have usually been surrounded by countries that have had designs on their unity. It's necessary that each side learned enough about the basic views of the other, and above all, of the basic principles and definitions of the national interests of the other to begin a dialogue." Unquote. In many ways, this course was prepared in anticipation of Kissinger's wise advice to understand both sides. In week 2, we will travel through the long journey of US-China relations all the way from the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949 to today. There were 3 distinct phases. A phase of hostility from 1949 to 1971, the honeymoon period from 1971 to the end of the Cold War in 1989, and finally, the ambivalent relationship over the last 30 years. In week 2, we will also explore the big mistakes made by both sides that contributed to the clear deterioration of relations in recent years, especially after President Trump took office in January 2017. The Chinese had unwisely alienated the American business community. The US made a bigger mistake by launching this contest without first formulating a comprehensive long-term strategy. In week 3, we will dive deeper into the major misunderstandings that have developed between the two sides. Be prepared for real surprises here. In week 4, we will try to conclude the course on an optimistic note by explaining how US and China can avoid an all-out contest, especially by listening to the voices of the 6 billion people who live outside US and China. Now, in theory, the election of Joe Biden as the new president of the US should change the US-China relationship significantly. So here comes the first big surprise of this course. In the Biden era of the US-China relationship, there will be a huge paradox. On the one hand, the Biden presidency will change everything. For a start, the Biden administration, unlike the Trump administration, will be a calm, stable, and predictable actor in the US-China relationship. No more policy making by tweets or tantrums. Instead, sober and serious policies will be worked out. On the other hand, the Biden presidency will change nothing. The fierce contests between the US and China will continue, since there's a strong bipartisan consensus in Washington, D.C. that the time has come for the US to stand up to China. President Biden will be excoriated if he's seen to be soft on China. His hands are tied for reasons that this course will explain. He will have to be seen to be tough on China. Therefore, there's no doubt that over the next decade or two, the whole world will be rocked in one way or another by the US-China geopolitical contest. This is why this course is important. If we want to understand the deeper roots of the disruptions and turbulence caused by this contest, we'll have to undertake the learning journey of this course. Over the next 4 weeks, you will encounter many significant challenges. I hope, however, that you'll be engaged and stimulated by them.